All right, everybody, welcome to another exciting edition of Baseball Now. I am, as always, your host, Scotty. We've got an interesting show for you this week. Our first ever live broadcast on the Southeastern Sports Network YouTube page. We've got some big news for y'all about the channel and more. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and welcome our sponsors for this show. Let's go ahead and take a look at our sponsors. As always, we want to thank the Allie Lindsay's Memory Movie Museum in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Tammy Cakes down in Locust Grove, Georgia. And of course, as always, East Tennessee Media, who's a proud sponsor and a big part of our network. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and welcome our lead analyst, Thomas, to the show. Thomas,
Hey, hi.
glad to have you.
Hey, how you doing, Scotty? It's good to be here always.
Pretty good. I'm glad to have you as always, and may I be the first one to congratulate you, sir.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
If nobody has heard the news from our Facebook page this morning, Thomas has been promoted. He has been the vice president of East Tennessee Media for a while now, and he is affectionately being promoted up to president of the Southeastern Sports Network. Now, he will be continuing on as vice president for a while of East Tennessee Media, but we feel it's time that he takes the reins of the sports network and runs with it. So, Thomas, welcome as always, and congratulations, buddy. What do you have in store for us moving forward on the channel?
Thank you, Scotty. I'm really excited and really good honor that I'm getting promoted to president of Southeastern Sports Network. We've got a lot of good things that I'm hoping to get in the works in the coming months. I'm hoping to get a couple more disc golf rounds. And a couple other things. I won't share too much right this second, but I'm really looking forward and really exciting to lead this new chapter here at the Southeastern Sports Network.
Well, we're lucky to have you, Thomas. And, you have been a big part of East Tennessee Media. You have helped me build that channel up to where it's something very powerful and a very good channel. Since you've joined, we've gained well over 1,400 subscribers. So hopefully we see the same luck here on Southeastern Sports Network. So let's go ahead and dive on into our show this week. Thomas, what do you have for us on our weekly recap?
All right, Scotty. So far, just from last week, August 18th to August 24th, you have the Georgia Dominators, that's myself, Thomas, versus the Chili Dogs, that's Ken. The Georgia Dominators victorious, 674 points. The Chili Dogs, 343. Now, in this series, so far in 2025, the Dominators have swept the Chili Dogs 3-0. The Dominators move to 15-5-1, winners of 6 straight, and the Chili Dogs can move to 3-18, loser of 1 from this week. Next game, you've got the Warner Robin Bombers, that's Jackson, over the Atlanta Express, that's Reuben. Warner Robin Bombers 462, Atlanta Express 355. Warner Robin Bombers moved to 9, 10, and 2, and those 2 ties are going to come back to haunt Jackson's team. Winners of 2 in a row, and the Atlanta Express 355 this week, 16-4-1, also losers of 2 in a row. The Express and the Warner Robin Bombers tied this series 1-1, and that 1 tie. Next game, you've got the Demon Duck Lindsays, that's Greg, versus his sister Tammy and the Wildcats. Greg wins all 3 games this year, 3-0, with a 529-340 beatdown of the Wildcats. The Demon Ducks moved to 15-6, winners of 1 in a row, and the Wildcats moved to 5-16, losers of 2 in a row. In the next game, you have the Gatlinburg Cubs, that's Scotty, versus Never Trade Your Kangaroo. Gatlinburg Cubs, 544. Never Trade Your Kangaroo, 488. Gatlinburg Cubs win this season series 2-1. And the Gatlinburg Cubs moved to 11-10, winners of 3 in a row. The Never Trade Your Kangaroo, 8-13, losers of 4 in a row. And that is a look at your Week 21 recap.
Thank you, Thomas. And that was a very interesting recap. And I think it's very interesting that for this season, I've I've won the series outright versus Never Trade Your Kangaroos, because that seems, years in the past, that seems like that's been one of our toughest hurdles to get over, is that. But what do you got for us on the playoff picture and standings?
All right, I'm glad you asked that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Week 22 standings for this week. Now you'll have a couple of changes here. There is no playoff percent for this week. Everybody is locked into their spots. Well, except for the 2 and 3 seed, that could flip flop depending on this game this week. But for number 1, you've got the Atlanta Express Reuben at 16-4-1. They have clinched the number 1 seed, so they're not going nowhere. At number 2, you've got the Georgia Dominators, myself, Thomas, at 15-5-1. Also have clinched a playoff berth. At number 3, you've got the Demon Duck Lindsays. That would be Greg at 15-6. Greg has also clinched a playoff berth. Now, 2 and 3 seeds, depending on the results of this week's game, they could change. But that's the only thing that's going to change. And number 4, you've got the Gatlinburg Cubs. That's yourself, Scotty, at 11-10. Also clinched the playoff berth by the victory over the Never Trade Your Kangaroos last week. And at number 5, you've got the Warner Robin Bombers, Jackson, at 9-10-2. Jackson's clinched that number 5 spot. You've got Never Trade Your Kangaroo at 8-13, as they've clinched number 6. At 7, you've got the Wildcats at 5-16, locked in at number 7. And at number 8, you've got the Chili Dogs, Ken, 3-18, locked in at number 8. So that's a look at your standings. So like I said, there's not really going to be, the only change could be 2 versus 3 with the Dominators win. It'll stay the same no matter if the Ducks win or lose. If the Dominators lose and the Ducks win, then the Ducks go to 2, Dominators go to 3. And now we're going to take a look at the playoffs. So number 4, and this is locked in. There's no change here. At number 4, you're going to have the Gatlinburg Cubs, that's Scotty, versus the number 1 seed, the Atlanta Express Reuben. And interesting facts on this game, potentially, Gatlinburg Cubs are 0-3 against the Express this year. And the average victory for the Express, average margin is 99 points. So take one game that was 5 points, the middle game in the series. The first and the third game have been complete butt whippings handed out by the Express. And the Express has also scored 600 points all 3 games in this matchup. Now, the next matchup is number 3, Demon Duck Lindsays, that's Greg, versus number 2 seed, Georgia Dominators, myself, Thomas. And this matchup has been locked in for Lord knows, it seems like it's been locked in since the start of the season between me and Greg. Interesting fact, the Ducks are 0-3-25 against the Dominators, and not particularly close. The average margin of victory has been 116 points in 2025. But if you go back to 23 and 24, the Ducks have bounced to Dominators the last 2 years in the first round. The first game being 505 to 428 in 23, and in 24, 484 to 470. So very close. So with anything on this matchup between the Ducks and Dominators, this should be a very tight ball game coming up in 2 weeks. And that is a look at your standings and your playoff bracket.
All right, thank you, Thomas, as always, for that playoff bracket and standings look. We're going to go ahead and look at our top performers for the week. For the Gatlinburg Cubs versus Never Trade Your Kangaroos, for the Cubs, you had Peterson at 64 points. You had Kelly at 58, as well as Green at 41. For the Kangaroos, you have Verenos at 47, Talion at 46, who does came off the disabled list. Interesting, he does came off the other day, and he's already listed day-to-day again. And Grissom at 39. That is an interesting situation with Tally in there. For the Atlanta Express versus the Bombers, we only had one real big score for the Express. You had Pavetta with 62 points. Barrios had 29, and Chapman had 28. Kind of an interesting performance from the Express. 2 weeks before the playoffs, that was kind of a interesting performance, don't you think, Thomas?
Yeah, there could be, and also point out the Express just lost a big starting pitcher. Zach Wheeler is out for the remainder of the season with blood clot in his right throwing shoulder, and that could be crucial for the Express going forward. We'll have to see. At this point in time in the year, there's really nothing you can do except catch lightning in a bottle with a couple of good starting pitchers out on the waiver market, and so that could really put a dent in the Express's chances to make the finals and win a championship.
It could very well. For the Bombers, you had a pretty high scoring week. Tyler Rogers had 71 points. Yamamoto had 50 for the Dodgers. And Chisholm, with 3 home runs this week, had 35 points. For your very own Georgia Dominators, Thomas, versus the Chili Dogs, the Dominators, Suarez, 85 points. He really put on a whooping this week, didn't he?
He did. He put on
Freeman,
a pretty good
54. Turner with 45. For the Dogs, Singer had 56, Colomero had 35, and Green had 33. Just to go back and touch on it for a minute, that Suarez, I don't remember, was he a draft pick of yours or lightning in a bottle?
Nope, he was a late draft pick, I believe.
That reminds me of earlier this year when I caught lightning in the bottle with one of my late round draft picks and drafted Schwellenbach from the Braves, and Schwellenbach put up those type of numbers, and unfortunately for me, Schwellenbach got hurt.
Yeah, Suarez is one of those that I was really wanting to get rid of early in the year because I knew he was good, but he was really inconsistent. So I'm glad I stuck with him, and hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully the next 3 weeks he'll continue to be on fire.
All I've got to say is your first round opponent. I do not seeing that type of number. I kind of fear for the Ducks a little bit there because I got a feeling the Ducks are going to go quacking home with a loss on that one. Speaking of the Ducks, the brother versus sister matchup of Demon Ducks versus the Wildcats. For the Wildcats, Vinny Pasquero, who you remember was one of the very first trades this year with the Kangaroos, 76 points for the Wildcat. Here's a name you should know of from the trade deadline, Thomas. Gunnar Henderson, you remember him. That was a last-minute deal. 37 points for the Wildcats. 2 home runs. It kind of makes you wonder, lining up against you in the playoffs, does the Ducks regret sending Henderson out? And Torkelson with 30 points. For the Ducks, you had Paul Skeens with 65, which at this point in the year, when we do these top performers, you expect Paul Skeens to be in there every single time, don't you?
Well, what's amazing about Paul Skeens is I kind of feel bad for the young man because he's got really stellar numbers. I think they said he's 8-9 with a low 2 ERA. And that's, I just don't see that winning the Cy Young with that kind of record, which is really a shame because if he was with the Dodgers or the Mets or the Phillies or the Yankees or the Astros, he would be 16, 17 wins. There's been, and what Greg has been saying constantly is he's been, 7 innings, 1 run or less, and the Pirates blow it in the 8th and 9th inning. Yeah, and that's really what's been killing Skeens' Cy Young numbers a little bit. But yeah, Skeens, and he is one that I worry about because Skeens can go off for 50, 60 points on any given day. So that is one that I'm hoping that I do not have to face twice.
Well, here is something that might be a little bit of interest to you moving into the playoffs. other than Skeens, the top performers this week for the Ducks was Bobby Witt Jr. at 43, who had 2 home runs. George Springer at 42, who had 3 home runs. Christian Walker at 38 with 3 home runs. And the other, when you think of the Ducks, or at least I do, when I think of the Ducks, the first thing that comes to mind is, man, I've got to face Scruple and Skeens. You pray to God that they're not matched up on the same day, because that could be 100-something points right there for the Ducks. But it is worth noting, Scruple, 38 points this week, 7 innings, 10 Ks.
It's pretty good.
Not it's good, it's but
good. That's enough in a close playoff race in 2 weeks. That's enough to sink me. But he's got good pitching. Greg has really built another team again, and I'm really banking on. I'm hoping that I've learned from the last 2 years where I don't believe I had enough pitching, and I had players getting hurt. And this year I've kind of been a little bit smarter and kind of picked up some players the last couple of weeks. Blake Snell, Shane Bieber, and I've held on to Woodruff all year. I'm really hoping that those 3 pitchers, they don't necessarily have to give me 45 points, but I'm hoping that they are what they're supposed to be, and they will help counteract. I've got Crochet, Hunter Brown that can light up the scoreboard. Suarez can light the scoreboard. Glasnow can light it up on them. So as long as they don't get hurt and they do what they're supposed to, I'm not really worried about Skeens and Scooble. But, that's why, we just have to play it and see how it goes, see how it rolls out.
Well, see, I'm not trying to throw shade toward the Express, because the Express is, the Express proved this year they're the number 1 team in the league, and they could very well be sitting at the end of the year on our championship show with the championship trophy. But if I get past the Express and for some reason the Ducks get past you, I'm kind of the same way. I'm not really worried about Skeens and Scruple, because backtracking a little bit, my top performers: Kelly, 58 points, Rue, 37, Indove, 35, Peterson, 64, and the list goes on. I'm right there with you with the pitching. You gotta have to wonder. Greg put a good team together, but is Scruple and Skeens enough to push him into the championship again this year?
The rest of the players that you just said that the Ducks have, that Greg has built, all those other players, Walker, he's got Gilbert, and he's got, and don't forget Schwarber. He can light you up for 35, 40 points just like that, with 2 home runs, 3 home runs a night. Greg's got a team that is really good. That's why I said a second ago in the playoff preview that I expected the matchup between me and him is going to come down to 50. It's going to come down to the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. There's not going to be a blowout either way, unless just some crazy snacking stuff happens during the week. It's going to be close because they're too good. Greg's got some players that are not household names, but they can still light you up. If your players ain't performing, his second-rate players are, you're still going to be in trouble. I will say though, Scott, I think whoever wins this championship is going to really earn it. Whether it's me, I'm going to have to go through Greg, or I'm going to have to go through the Express, or you. Whether it's Greg, got to go through me, and then either you or the Express, or vice versa. You going through the Express, and then either Greg or me, or the Express going through you, and then me or Greg. And he's not had very good luck against Greg. He's 1-2. He's 2-1 against me, but as I've pointed out constantly, he's got 2 wins over me by combined 5 points. So You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I would be worried if I was him. I would be a little bit worried about that matchup again. And then, and I did just beat him by 20 points a couple weeks ago, but actuality, he had the lead the whole week, and I
I
didn't think I
remember.
was going to be able to beat the Express. But on Sunday, I think I had like 150, and he had like 15 or 20, and it was just enough to skate on by him. But I think the hardest road to winning the trophy is going to be the Cubs. I think that something just tells me that
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think it is.
you're going to have the hard road because you've got the Express, and then you've got Greg who has owned you, and then you've got me
Yeah,
behind it, and this will be a good play. This will be a good preview this week's game between us. So, I mean, whether you get by me, whether you get by Ruben, the Express, and then whoever you face, it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough to go through it two in a row. And
I agree with you.
your team gives me a little bit worried. Now I'll share it on later in the week who I think is going to win that game. I won't give no predictions on mine and Greg's game. I'll just go ahead and say though, I'm not sure you've got enough players to stay with him. If his team performs if his team doesn't perform, then it's a wide open ball game. But if his team really performs, you're in trouble, big
Well,
trouble.
I think the big elephant in the room, and no, it's not the Crimson Tide elephant, because I know we got football starting back this week. But the biggest elephant I think in the room with the Express and Cubs matchup is you've got the Cubs, my team, and and I hate to talk bad about my team, but the last, we whooped up on the Bombers. I think everybody kind of expected that, right?
Right. Yeah. And the Bombers were they're the Jackson's team. He's kind of inconsistent. Truthfully,
Right.
he's a little
And,
inconsistent.
and the Cubs beat up a little bit on the Wildcats. Okay. Like I said about the Bombers, no offense to the Wildcats, but you kind of expect that because even though the Wildcats manager, Tammy, has been a good manager, and the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, she just missed the playoffs last year, didn't she?
No, she made the playoffs last
Yeah, she
year.
made the playoffs last year. She just had bad luck this year with her roster.
I would expect going forward that the Wildcats are going to come back up. I mean, they're 5-16. I'm not going to say I would flip that for next year, but I
No,
would say
I agree.
that I'd go maybe 11-10, 10-11, something like that.
I agree. But I mean, Never Trade Your Kangaroo has not had a good team this year.
No, they've been towards the bottom. They've had good opportunities, good moments. They've made a couple of bad trade decisions, I think, and that's kind of took them out of the ball game, so to speak.
So I mean, honestly, like I was saying, the elephant in the room this week is a good practice or preparedness because the last three we've won 3 straight, yes, but at the same time, it's been against the 3 teams we're supposed to beat. Now we're getting ready to go against the team that we have to beat to make it to the next round. Does my team, like you said, does my team have enough? But at the same side, look at the Express. The Express came off of a loss versus you, which was a very close loss, but still a loss versus you. And then this week against the Bombers, the Express team, and it's nothing. The manager did a great job managing, as always. Ruben does a great job, but his team just didn't perform this week.
Well, he didn't use all the pitchers, and some of the pitchers, if he would have used, they weren't very good at the beginning of the week anyway.
Right.
That's why it's like I've always said, you need some luck in this business. You need a lot of luck and you need skill as a manager when to, make the right moves. Who's to say that the Dominators don't change stuff up this week and play a little bit of a different game, you know, than what the Cubs expect? Because the Dominators don't have to do anything. They don't need to win necessarily because it don't do anything for them. So I'm not saying, I'm not saying I'm going to do that. I'm not saying I'm not going to do that either.
Well,
It could be
I
a week
think
where
that
it could be a week where I just lay back and just, if I get beat by 300, I get beat by 300. But
right,
how do you
and I
know?
mean,
But how do you know as a manager which one is a real Dominator team and which one's not?
right, and I mean,
Hmm.
where on the opposite side, I have to manage this week very tough. I have to manage it like an elimination game because, yeah, I'm in the playoffs, but at the same time, I I've got to manage it like the playoffs because I've got to be able to show, hey, look, I can beat a playoff team.
Right,
But
correct.
I think it'll be very interesting going forward. But let's go ahead and take a look at the week ahead. Since we were talking about me and yours matchup, we've got kind of an interesting matchup this week. Just looking at it, you've got, of course, like we've already talked about, you've got the brother versus brother rivalry, me versus you. That's been a last couple of years. It's not been a decent rivalry, has it?
I wouldn't consider anything a rivalry unless it goes back and forth. When it goes, 8-2, that's not really a rivalry. That's just one team getting their butt kicked.
But, and I hate to use this anomaly here, but I think you know where I'm going with this anomaly, don't you?
Mm.
Uh, I'm gonna do this because one of our managers is an Alabama fan, but I think the tide stops here with you this year. I did beat you once this year. Good possibility I could beat you again this week or 3 times in the playoffs. So the scales might be tipping there, buddy.
Well, I've heard a lot the last couple of years because I've been knocked out of the playoffs. I've heard it from other managers that said that the Dominators were on their way down. And they even
Uh,
said it this year after I got off to a slow start. And I think I used this at you know, at the start. A lot of teams the last couple of years, I'm not an Alabama fan by no means, but you know, they, they took out Saban's team, but you can't never underrate and never write off the Nick Saban team because at the end of the year, they're right back into playoff again. And that's just like
yep,
my team. You don't never write off the Dominators because I think of myself as a very good manager. Sometimes I don't play stuff correctly or, a couple of things the last couple of years in the playoffs I didn't do right, but I'm a two-time champion for a reason.
mm-hmm.
So, and I've been in
Well,
the playoffs every year, and I'm the only team manager that has got a winning record every single year that this league has been in existence. I've got the only winning record every year. And that's for a reason because I know what I'm doing.
that's right.
So
And
you can never write me off. And,
mm,
people want to keep doing that. Let them do it. I'll just keep
well,
winning.
you remember what Nick Saban said years ago? This whenever anybody makes the comments about the Dominators being written off, it's just rat poison.
We love to eat rat. We love the rat poison.
Uh Hopefully this year I can hopefully this time next year when we have this discussion next year and I'm in the playoff hunt again and hopefully next year I clinch a little bit sooner than I did this year being the last team to clinch. But hopefully I could sit there and say the same thing to you and say, well, I'm a one-time champion for a reason, and hopefully, be one behind you. But our next matchup, you've got the Atlanta Express versus the Chili Dogs. This is going to be an interesting. I'm just going to go ahead and put this out here, and I might catch some flack for putting this out here, but I'm going to go ahead and say I'm putting that game on upset alert because which Express is going to show up? The Chili Dogs have showed this year that they, even though their record don't show it, at times they can play a decent team and a decent unit. Can the Express, are they in a funk or, can they overcome them? So I'm going to go ahead and put an upset watch on this one because I think this will be a game worth watching, especially next week going into the playoffs. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting game for a couple days, and then I think the Express is going to roll right over to the Chili Dogs. The Chili Dogs are just not that good. I mean, they just got beat by 300 something points last week by the Dominator. So they're just not, not banging on Ken's team, but they're just not that good.
No,
Easy
not
victory
this.
for the Express.
Then you've got the Wildcats and the Bombers. The Bombers have won 2 straight. The Wildcats have lost 2 straight. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Bombers on this one.
I'm going to go with the Bombers too. Even though I think it'll be closer than expected.
And then you've got Demon Ducks versus the Kangaroos. Kangaroos have lost 4 straight, and the Ducks have the Ducks have won 1. Excuse me. I'm going to go with the Kangaroos on this one. I think, and it's not nothing toward the Ducks. I just think, every year there's a trap game. Somebody in this league gets a trap game that they lose, not supposed to. I think it's going to be the Ducks this week. Call me crazy for saying it, but I think the Ducks are going to lose to the Kangaroos.
Give me the Ducks big.
Well, but see, here's the thing.
Give them to me big. They're not going to lose to the Kangaroos.
I think what's going to happen is Kangaroos are going to end up beating the Ducks, and I think Ducks, that's just going to be more fire and more motivation for the Ducks going to the playoffs, and I think the Ducks will come out and blow up that first round opponent.
I don't really see that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think the Ducks will go win. They'll be ready for this week and the next week going forward. You're not going to catch Greg Lindsey off guard. Greg learned from one of the best managers, so you're not going to catch him off guard.
Who did he learn from? The Express?
No, Greg learned from me. But I didn't teach Greg everything that I knew. So
no, ain't that the truth? You didn't teach him all of his tricks. Some of his dirty tricks he learned on his own. While we have this opportunity, before we go into the power rankings, again, folks, I just want to say if you're in the Locust Grove area or McDonough area, be sure to stop by and check out Tammy's Cakes in Locust Grove, Georgia. They are very good and yummy and tasty. As Thomas could speak for it, can't you?
They are very good.
Also, let's real quick take a chance to thank another one of our sponsors, the Eileen Lindsay Movie Memories Museum in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. That's now open. She is a very proud actress who is very proud of her museum. Please make sure you get in touch on Facebook to book an appointment today. Now we're going to go ahead.
You won't regret booking an appointment to go to the museum, and it's really good, fascinating stuff. Every time I go, it's really a good trip.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Week 22 Power Rankings brought to you by East Tennessee Media. Coming in at number 1 spot is the Georgia Dominators at 15-5-1. Coming in at number 2, you've got Demon Duck Lindsay's at 15-6. Last week they were number 4. Coming in at number 3, you've got the Atlanta Express 16-4-1. They were number 2 last week. Coming in at number 5, you got the Warner Robert Bombers 9-10-2. They were number 5 last week. Number 6, you've got the Gatlinburg Cubs 11-10. They were number 3 last week. Number 6, Never Trade Your Kangaroo 8-13. They were 6 last week. Number 7, the Wildcats have moved up 1 spot. They're 5-16. Last week they were number 8. And at this point in the season, you just kind of got to say ho hum, right, Thomas?
That's something to be proud of, moving up from 7 to 8.
I mean, all year, every time we've done these power rankings, you've had a couple in the top 4 or 5 switch up. It seems like all year, the top 5 every single week has been different.
Yeah, the top 5, there's no really change. The Dominators won the last 2 weeks, so the Dominators should be at number 1. They beat the best team in the league. The Ducks have slipped back a little bit, and the Cubs, I put the Bombers over the Cubs because I feel like the Bombers had a better win than the Cubs did.
Yeah.
And the Bombers kind of strangled their opponent all week. And
the Cubs struggled.
The Cubs were a Saturday, Sunday. So that's why they kind of got penalized a little bit. And then the Cats and the Chili Dogs, you can flip them either way. Combined record of 8-34.
And the whole thing I was trying to make is that top 5 has randomly swapped and moved all year. But at this point, it's been kind of comedic. That number 7 and number 8 is just an elevator, ain't it? That's Chili Dogs, Wildcats. Chili Dogs, Wildcats. And the number 8 spot is, of course, the Chili Dogs, 3-18. He was number 7 last week. Surprise, surprise. That is your Week 22 Power Rankings brought to you by East Tennessee Media. As always, folks, be sure to head on over to East Tennessee Media's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, folks, be sure to like and subscribe to our Southeastern Sports Network TikTok page, as well as Facebook. And, of course, be sure to click that like and subscribe button here on YouTube. Hopefully, we can continue doing these live streams for you every single week for Baseball Now and moving forward for any shows. Hopefully, if the good president will discuss that with me moving forward. But for your host, I am Scott, as always. And Thomas, well, thank you again for being on the show, as always.
Everybody have a wonderful and a great rest of your week.
We'll see y'all next week.